Hello YouTube and welcome back to Too Many Topics. I'm Josh and today I'm here to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or more specifically, the announcements that Marvel had for us at San Diego Comic-Con 2022. So, they completely blew my mind, like genuinely. I was not expecting all the announcements that we got last month at Comic-Con, and while this is ancient news, in terms of internet content, I still want to give my thoughts about it. And as you can see, this is kind of the first, or obviously it is the first Too Many Topics video here, so we're going to kind of try to figure out the format, or figure out what I want to talk about, or how I want to say it. As you can see, I definitely changed the background for sure, totally, right? I added an Infinity Gauntlet over there, and I've also added a snapping Tony Stark from Marvel Legends. So that's how you know that this is a Too Many Topics video, because there's definitely not still a bunch of Tokusatsu stuff around me, because this is totally not the Toku Topics set. Right? So let's go ahead and dive right in with the first batch of announcements, and that was, Kevin Feige coming out on stage, and I always love when he does this. I did it back in 2014. I always watch, sometimes when I'm just bored, I go back and I watch the 2014 announcement that he did, like September, I think it was what it was, in like 2014, where he came out on stage and he announced all the Phase 3 titles, including like Infinity War, what would become Endgame, which at the time was announced as Infinity War Part 2, and I was just like blown away by that kind of thing. It was really cool to me. And then they did very similar kind of thing in 2019 at the last time that Comic-Con had Marvel there, or the last time Comic-Con was kind of held in its normal traditional way. But he did just that. He came out on stage, he laid out all of Phase 4 first, which he talked about how, we have all these projects out and everything. And what was really interesting to me is that we had not really known the end of Phase 4, like what was the cutoff point was going to be. So I was actually pretty surprised, and I don't even really know why I was surprised, to find out that Black Panther Wakanda Forever was going to be the final thing in Phase 4. Technically, I would actually say that the final thing in Phase 4 is probably going to be the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special that we still haven't seen much of, which I thought was very strange that he didn't mention that. I also thought it was very strange he didn't mention the already filmed and we know about from different leaks and trades and everything, Werewolf by Night special that we're getting on Disney Plus this Halloween. I thought that was very strange that they didn't talk about that at all. Since this news is already so old as it is anyway, because it was like a month ago that this happened at Comic-Con, I kind of just pretty much want to talk about the new projects that we didn't already know about, because that's kind of what I have sort of the most thoughts about, because like I have heard of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for like 2 years at this point, same thing as the Guardians 3, even though I'm very excited for both of those films. The Marvels is there. I don't know, I'm just not super excited for the Marvels. I really want to see Miss Marvel again. I think that character is really awesome, but like Captain Marvel is one of my not least favorite. I don't know, I thought it was kind of one of the weaker MCU films, and that's nothing to like the character or anything like that. I know there's all those people online who like hate Brie Larson and hate Captain Marvel. I'm not like that. I just didn't love the movie, but I'm definitely still gonna watch it. I watch everything in the MCU. I am like that. But one thing that we finally got confirmation on was when Blade was releasing. So Blade finally got a release date of November 2023, and this one I'm definitely pretty hyped for. To be honest, and I will go ahead and admit it, I've never actually seen the original Blade films with Wesley Snipes. I don't know why. I haven't watched those films, to be honest, although there's a couple of those like older Fox, and I don't even think those were Fox, but like the older Marvel films from the 2000s. For the most part, I've only ever seen like the Spider-Man trilogy and the X-Men films, and also the Fantastic Four films. I saw those in theaters. Those are great. I love those films, honestly. But yeah, Blade, I'm definitely very excited for. Seymour Hershey Ali's take on it. It still kind of throws me off a little bit by him being cast as Blade when we already had him as Cottonmouth in Luke Cage, which is also definitely sort of supposed to be canon at this point, especially with other announcements that they had at Comic-Con, but also because we had that little cameo at Blade at the end of Eternals, and I'm one of 5 people who like the Eternals. I'm very excited to see where the character's going to go from there, and if we're going to see Black Knight in the film at all in any capacity. Maybe if we get a cameo from other Midnight Suns characters that they're kind of slowly starting to build towards. I'm very excited to see what that film is going to bring us when it comes out in like 15 months or so. And then of course we had Captain America New World Order, which we'd already known about Captain America 4 being a thing. We knew that Sam Wilson was going to be the lead of it. I assume that Bucky's going to be back in it as well. I always remember reading that like Sebastian Stan signed like a 9-film contract or something with Marvel back when they used to do it like that, and not really kind of bring people back on like a movie and project sort of project-by-project basis. I was definitely a little bit underwhelmed by The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was probably the show, and I watch all the Disney Plus shows with my dad for the most part, and it was probably the Disney Plus show I was like the most hyped for when they kind of announced that initial grouping of them back at Comic-Con 3 years ago. And I didn't dislike it by any means. I haven't disliked any of the Disney Plus shows. It ended up being my least favorite because WandaVision just kind of really ended up becoming really good, even though I still don't like its finale. And then you had Loki, which I loved, and like all the other shows I've also really enjoyed since then. And like I said, I didn't dislike The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I just kind of felt like maybe they could have done more with it, and so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what New World Order can do to build off of that and kind of where they go with certain characters and who comes back from the show. And then the final movie that they announced to end Phase 5, which I don't think is actually going to be the final, well, it will be, but I also don't think that they've announced every single one of the Phase 5 movies yet, but we have Thunderbolts. Now this one has been rumored for a while. We knew that there was, from the different trade websites and everything, we knew that it had a director attached to it, and we've been having rumors about it, and they've been building towards a Thunderbolts-like team with like characters in the background from some of the Disney Plus shows and stuff like that. So I'm very intrigued by this. They kind of, Kevin Feige was making it a point to where he said that we were going to be introduced to the members of the team at a different point. So I'm not really sure if we're supposed to expect it to be full of villains or anti-heroes or whoever that we've already seen, or I'm sure there's going to be some new faces here as well, but I'm also expecting there to be returning faces as well. We had, like I said, we've heard rumors of Thunderbolts for years. I think it's a really cool idea from the comics, and it's kind of like Marvel's Suicide Squad, kind of. And I'm not a big comic guy, so I don't know like everything about the characters, but like I've heard about the team and everything like that. I definitely think that this movie's plans probably changed with the unfortunate passing of William Hurt, because, you know, he could have been Red Hulk. We could have, of course, had Thunderbolt Ross in the Thunderbolts. I'm sure that was probably their original plan, especially since they brought him back so many times since Civil War, because he was in Civil War, he was in Infinity War, he was in Endgame, and he was also in Black Widow, of course. So it kind of seemed like they were bringing him back so many times to kind of build towards Thunderbolts, and now he's gone. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. They could recast, of course, especially if they do go the route with making him Red Hulk or something. We could, you know, have an entirely different actor for that and just pretend it's the same character, you know, the same William Hurt version. That could work. I don't know if Marvel's going to go that direction, or if we're not going to get any kind of Thunderbolt Ross at all. I'm sure he'll have to be mentioned at least, because it'd be very strange to have the team here named after him and him to have no involvement. So I'm definitely going to be very interested to see where that movie goes, since it is such kind of not really a weird choice, but just kind of a neat idea that they're kind of seeming to fast track over there at Marvel Studios to really get out there for this Phase 5 slot, and I'm excited to see why. Now, the reason why they've probably not announced their entire Phase 5 movie slate is because, and I didn't really see a lot of people talk about this, I saw some people talk about it, but there is a February 2024 release date that Disney still has marked out for a Marvel film, and they didn't announce what Marvel film that is. So, which is kind of strange, because like they pretty much gave us every announcement for the 2023 slate and every announcement from the 2024 slate, and then just didn't didn't bother to you know, show off what the February 2024 slate is, so, or the movie slot. So I'm pretty sure it's Deadpool 3. I don't see why it wouldn't be Deadpool 3. What I thought was very odd is that there was a lot of promotion about Deadpool leading up to SDCC, and then just nothing happened. And what I mean by that is that the day before the big Marvel panel, that Friday before, they made a big marketing campaign about how Deadpool, Deadpool 2, and Logan were the first rated R films to be added to Disney+. So that kind of seemed like that was sort of a sign pointed towards a Deadpool announcement. And then also to tie into that, they had a Deadpool free chimichanga truck at Comic-Con. And so I was like, okay, well, we're definitely getting a Deadpool 3 announcement, and then we just didn't. So definitely thought that was a little strange. But they are definitely gearing up for it over there at Marvel, because we've seen some photos from like Ryan Reynolds kind of getting back into training. We already know that Sean Levy, who also works on like Stranger Things, he also has done whatever, I forget what the film is called, but he just did it with Ryan Reynolds. He also did Free Guy like a year or two ago. So him and Ryan Reynolds are kind of doing this like trilogy of films together. Not that they have any connection or anything, but we've already kind of known things about Deadpool 3 kind of getting the ball rolling. So, and it's supposed to have an end of 2022 like production start, so it definitely would be able to make it for a February 2024 slot, and I'm sure that's what it is. I'm sure that that slot is for Deadpool, because even though they didn't announce it, it's still there planted on the calendar, because Marvel even planned out release dates to 2027, the week of Comic-Con, and they still left that date there untitled. So very curious what it's going to be. Pretty sure it's Deadpool. But then, of course, Disney Plus had a lot of fun with the Phase 5 announcements, so that's kind of how I'm going to do this today. Kind of do the films, and then the shows, that kind of thing, kind of go back and forth. So we already knew about every single one of these shows, for the most part, that was announced as part of Phase 5's Disney Plus lineup. So what's interesting, too, is that, and I'm assuming it's because they did their own panel for it the day before, but they had a whole panel for Marvel Animation, which is where they covered What If Season 2, and where they covered the upcoming Marvel Zombies and the Spider-Man freshman year. And while those are all still MCU adjacent, obviously those are alternate different timelines for all three of those shows, they kind of, in the past, like in 2019, they had What If up there, part of Phase 4, like just front and center, and this time they just don't include it on the phase lists, and I'm assuming that's because they're not shows and stuff like that that take place on the main sacred timeline that, you know, was established in Loki, and it's kind of what all the shows and movies fall on. So I'm assuming that's the point, and also the fact to kind of just differentiate the animation and the live action segments of Marvel, even though those shows are definitely still MCU canon, they're just MCU multiverse canon. So, but basically for the Disney Plus shows, we had Secret Invasion and Echo, which had already been previously announced, and I don't really have a lot to say about either of them, except for the fact that I'm definitely hyped for both of them. Secret Invasion sounds like one of the most exciting of the Disney Plus shows that they have in the works. We've seen very small glimpses of footage of it from like the Disney Plus day last year and stuff like that. We had like a brief shot of Nick Fury and everything. We've kind of had some little hints in there, you know, like possible characters being spotted on sets and that kind of thing. So they're definitely keeping Secret Invasion pretty secret. But it's supposed to be, as far as the scheduling goes, this is supposed to be the next Marvel Disney Plus show live action one after She-Hulk, which premieres this upcoming week. So I'm sure soon enough I don't know exactly when it's planned to come out, because it was originally slated for 2022, and now it's slated for 2023. So I'm assuming probably like an early 2023, maybe like a January, February kind of thing, maybe like around the time that we got WandaVision last year, we'll get this. So very, very excited for it. Same thing with Echo. I really liked Maya's character in Hawkeye. I also just really liked Hawkeye in general. And I love the fact that we're going to be bringing in Daredevil and Fisk and everything from this show. They didn't talk about them coming back for Echo specifically, but we literally just this past week had some set photos leak of Vincent D'Onofrio on set wearing a very comic-accurate Kingpin costume, so yeah, they're in the show. But then again, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are back for a lot of different things as Daredevil and Fisk respectively, and I'm very, very excited for that. Loki Season 2 is filming right now, and I think we've had maybe a couple different filming shots for that, but I loved that first season. It's one of my favorite Disney Plus shows that they've had so far. It might even be my favorite one. Either that or Moon Knight were probably my favorite of the Disney Plus shows thus far. So I'm very excited that that was the one finally chosen, or the only one so far besides the animated ones to be, you know, officially confirmed to get a Season 2. And I'm very excited to see where that keeps going, to slowly keep building us closer and closer to the Avengers films that we're going to be getting. Then we have Ironheart, which is going to be a sequel to the upcoming Black Panther. We've already seen some set photos this past week of her show, and those set photos kind of gave us a better look at her armor, which I think looks really sweet. It also gave us some looks at the Hood, who's going to be in this show, and I literally only know about this guy from the iconic Marvel Legends figure that's, you know, they made, and people always memed about this just being kind of a generic Hasbro like toy collector who's just this perpetually screaming face. I bought this figure while I was drunk, and I do not regret that decision one bit. Haven't opened him, but I don't regret that decision one bit. Very excited to see the Hood show up. The upcoming Agatha series got a retitle, so when it was first announced, it was announced as Agatha House of Harkness, and now it's going to be called Agatha Coven of Chaos. So still keeping with the whole same letters kind of thing. Both titles are great. I like Coven of Chaos. I was also perfectly fine with House of Harkness. Definitely good with it. Definitely really liked Catherine Hahn's character from WandaVision. I would love to see more of that character in the MCU. Not one I would have expected to get her own show. I mean, we've known about this one for close to a year at this point, and they seemingly announced it pretty early on, since, you know, they already changed the name, and it's not supposed to start filming till like a couple months from now, and it's definitely not supposed to be coming out until like the fall of 2023, so we're definitely like a year away from the show even being a thing, or even close. Probably going to be out like around like Halloween probably of 2023, you know, kind of tie into the whole witches thing and the Coven stuff and just all that fun stuff. And I think it's just going to be kind of more of a fun show. I sense Agatha has such a long history that they can explore in the MCU. I expect this to be kind of a show that deals a little bit more with that, more than maybe the ramifications of WandaVision, although I'm assuming that there'll probably be some sort of connection to what happens to her in WandaVision. So there could be some sort of like, you know, backlog stuff and also like still moving the story forward, because I don't think that they would do the show if it was like just origins of stuff like that. Or maybe they will, I don't know. And then of course, Daredevil, Born Again. Oh my god. So this is freaking awesome. So Kevin Feige comes out and he's like, got a very excited one, and he's like, we got Daredevil, Born Again, 18 episodes. He even said it twice to really emphasize it. And damn, I did not expect that. I mean, I expected the Daredevil series, because that was actually reported on, I think by like the Hollywood Reporter, like a month before Comic-Con. We knew that there was a new Daredevil series officially in development at Disney+, and that was even rumored a long time ago. But now it was obviously officially confirmed. It's a fantastic title. I love those titles. This is a title that makes me think of Spider-Man Homecoming, kind of what their double meanings of the titles are. Because it's a fantastic title. Because you have Daredevil Born Again, because it is obviously a revival of the original Netflix show. And also, I think Born Again is a storyline of Daredevil. I've definitely heard that name before. I could be completely wrong. Like I said, I don't really know comic stuff too much. My exposure to Marvel and I guess DC is basically the MCU and the Arrowverse, honestly, for DC stuff. But basically, I'm hyped. I'm very, very hyped. I loved the original Daredevil series, although I actually never finished it, and that's because I was watching it when it had gotten canceled, and I never watched season 3 because the show got canceled, and I figured, well, what was the point? Because it wasn't going to go anywhere. But now that it is in some capacity, because they've kind of sort of been vague about like how much those original shows of the Netflix era are like full-on canon. They kind of implied that like while they're going to use the same casting from those shows, you can kind of infer that the same events happened to these characters. They might not like, it's not like this is necessarily going to be Daredevil season 4. It's not going to necessarily pick up directly from where season 3 happens, but I guess you're supposed to infer that the events of season 3 are very similar events happened to our MCU counterparts of them. It's kind of confusing. I think it's intentionally confusing so that way they can change their mind if they don't want to do stuff with the Netflix shows in their original storylines, or also change their mind if they do. I think that's where, like I said, I think it's vaguely or intentionally vague to keep that idea or that door open for this idea. So I definitely thought that that's where it was going to end, because I was like, that was already a ton of announcements for them to show off for one event, and they had already kind of hinted that they were going to save some big announcements for D23, which is happening on September, I think it's like 10th or something like that, where there's going to be a big Marvel panel where they reveal more projects, and so I thought that they were really saving some heavy hitters for D23. But then, because like they do the whole Phase 5 reveal, and then Kevin, like they basically went through all the projects one by one. They placed some trailers for Ant-Man and for Guardians and stuff like that they didn't release to the public. And then Kevin Feige comes back out and he's like, can we talk some Phase 6? And I remember I was sitting on Twitter, right? And I'll probably put up some of the tweets or something as I talk about this part. And I was kind of tweeting everything out, and I'm like, oh my god, all the Phase 5, and I was like freaking out, and I was texting my roommate Keyshawn, and we were just having a good time. And then I'm watching all the live tweets come in, and they're like, more announcements, and I'm like, no way. And he's like, you want to talk about Phase 6? I'm like, holy crap, what? So, Fantastic Four. So we all knew it was coming. Obviously, they've already announced this film many years ago. We even had John Watts attached as a director for a period of time. He dropped out. We still don't have a new director. We don't have a cast. But we have a release date now. So it's now the November slot for 2024, which isn't too surprising whatsoever. I'm totally good with that. And I'm sure that they could even have maybe casting news ready for D23 or something, because they still have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. But, oh man. So, then they're like, we're going to jump to the end of Phase 6. And they left all the Disney Plus show slots empty. They left a couple of the movie slots empty. And they show the Avengers logo. And then it becomes Avengers, the Kane Dynasty. Avengers, Secret Wars. And then they show both the titles. And then they go place themselves on the timeline for May 2025 and November 2025. And my mind exploded. I was like, no freaking way. We're going to get 2 Avengers films in the same year, 6 months apart. What? That is absolutely insane. Visual effects artists need to unionize, let me tell you. Because holy crap, I'm hyped for that, but I hope that they don't work themselves to death. Like I've been seeing on Twitter and everything like that constantly. I really hope that that situation improves itself for all this kind of stuff. However, you know, talking about the excitement for these, wow, like I don't even know what to say. Infinity War and Endgame, I loved those movies tremendously. Infinity War, before it came out, I did a big rewatch of the entirety of the MCU in chronological order, using the Geek Critique timeline that he put together, that Dakota put over there, and he does fantastic work. I'll actually leave a link to his channel down in the comments below, because he's always updating the MCU timeline, and I don't think he gets enough credit for how much work and effort he puts into doing that. It's fantastic stuff. So if you guys have never seen that, highly recommend it. But basically, I watched everything in the MCU again, or sometimes for the first time, for a lot of the shows leading up to Infinity War. So I was extremely hyped for that. And then I loved it. I loved it so much. And then Endgame came out. Endgame is one of only a couple films in my entire life to where I cried in the movie theater. That doesn't really happen very often. The only other time that happened, which was actually the same year, was Toy Story 4. Saw with my girlfriend. Got me right here, right in the heart. But Endgame also did. I cried 3 distinct times at Endgame. And I loved that film so much. That's one of the only films also that I've seen in theaters more than once. I saw it in theaters twice. And I love it so, so much. And so those two films definitely topped themselves at the top of my MCU movie ranking. And I was like, the only other thing that would ever be able to top it would be another Avengers film. And I never would have thought that we would have gotten Avengers 5 and 6 in the same year. Now, we knew that they were building to Secret Wars. We'd seen that with Incursion talk and everything in Doctor Strange. And everybody's been talking about Secret Wars. Everybody's been like, oh, you know, they're building to Secret Wars. Are the Russos going to direct the Secret Wars stuff? No, they're not. But, you know, like, we were all building towards that. And so this kind of got leaked a little bit, because the day before Comic-Con, there was a big list of trademarks that got leaked that had the Kane Dynasty and had Secret Wars on it. So when they announced 2 Avengers films, I wasn't completely caught off guard, but I was caught off guard by the 2025 release dates, because holy crap. So I'm very excited for that. And it did come out after Comic-Con that Destin Daniel Cretton, the director of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, is going to be directing the Kane Dynasty. He's not going to be directing Secret Wars. They still don't have a director picked for that, or if they do, it hasn't been made public in any capacity. But I'm very, very happy. I mean, I've said that probably like so many different variations of it already, but I just am. Like, I cannot believe that we're getting 2 Avengers films in the same year. I also can't believe that it's 3 years away, which is fine. I mean, we still have a lot of work to get to before we build up to that. But I'm just kind of thinking about timeline-wise, like where I will be in my life at that point. I will be 24 years old in 2025, which, like, that's crazy. I probably won't even be in this house anymore, which would be really sad. I mean, but also it would make sense. I should move out of my parents' house at some point. So, like, my life could be very different when these 2 films come out. And so there's already going to be that kind of emotional attachment to them just in that capacity, because, like, the first 4 Avengers films, I saw all of them with my dad in theaters. We see all the MCU films in theaters together. And we could be building towards a point with these 2 Avengers films to where I might not even be near where my dad is to see them in theaters or something. And that, you know, there's just a lot of emotional kind of connection to these films that I have. So seeing how far away that they are, and just kind of where I'm at with my life, it's just really interesting. You know, it's just something that really does connect to me here, and it almost feels like an ending. I've seen some kind of people theorizing that maybe Secret Wars is going to kind of soft reboot the MCU, you know, like probably have, obviously there's going to be incursions, where you probably have another universe colliding with the main MCU universe, and then it's possible that whatever is created besides Battleworld after that would probably be sort of a soft rebooted MCU. And that's something I've talked about with my dad a lot of times, is where the MCU, by the time Secret Wars will come out, will have been 17 years old, and so you can't keep this storyline going forever and still expect new people to get into it and, you know, not see this giant backlog of stuff that'd be super daunting to get through. So I definitely think at some point you have to kind of soft reboot it, and I could definitely see that happening after Secret Wars. Now, speaking of after Secret Wars, Disney did place a couple of release dates for 2027, which is, I'll be 26 years old. I will be 26 years old in 2027. I can't even remotely think about that year yet. But they put a couple release dates out there, which would be Phase 7, because they did say that Secret Wars will end Phase 6. And also, not only that, Phase 6 will end the Multiverse Saga. And let me tell you, as somebody who loves graphics and editing and logos, they killed it. I absolutely love the reveal of the Multiverse Saga logo, because you have the Roman numerals for 4, 5, and 6, because Multiverse Saga is Phases 4, 5, and 6. And I just love what they do with that. It's just, I don't know. It's a subtle little thing, but Kevin, it works so well. I know you didn't make that. Some visual effects artist made that, but I love it. And then he gave everybody in the audience Multiverse Saga hats. And wow, like what an event that was. So like, I was losing my mind. I was talking to my friends on the phone that night that it happened about, you know, they're not even big Marvel fans. I was up on my internship, so it was like 2 weeks before I got to come home and like talk to my dad and stuff again. And when I got back, I was just like gushing about all the news to my dad, and he was just kind of like, yeah, So I was like, yep. And so I really wanted to kind of talk about it all here today because wow, very hyped for this. So there's also a ton of projects that are on that trademark list, like a Red Guardian project and a Shang-Chi title, and a couple of other things. Not Eternals, what was it? Celestials was on there. Hercules was on there. So I'm very curious what they have up their sleeves for D23, because they said that they're revealing 8 more projects at D23, which I'm assuming will be a combination of films and Disney Plus shows. Probably more Disney Plus shows because there's not too many more movie release date slots that they have open that they can talk about yet, except for the 2027 ones, but we're not going to know what those are until like 2024 at the earliest, or 2025 even, so, you know, don't count on that. But lots of really cool things happened here. I'm going to keep watching the MCU. I know a lot of people have MCU kind of burnouts, and I totally get it. And I was experiencing it a little bit. You know, some of these Disney Plus shows having nearly new MCU content every single week was definitely starting to become a lot. And I don't know, I feel like, which is strange, because they announced all these projects, and you would think that would add to more, you know, burnout for the MCU, but it reinvigorated my interest in the MCU, honestly, which is weird. That's not really what I would have expected it to do, but I love this franchise so much, and I'm going to stick with it at least through Secret Wars and kind of see where they go from there, since I'm pretty sure they're probably going to soft reboot it after this. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments below about everything that Comic-Con had for the MCU. Which films are you most excited to see? Which shows are you most excited to see? And what do you think they're going to announce at D23? I'm definitely going to do a follow-up video at D23 or around D23. I'm not going, but I would love to, you know, do something like that. Maybe, I don't know if it's going to be like a live streamed panel. If it is, I might do like a reaction stream or something like I do over at Toku Topics for like Hasbro events. If that's an option, or if that's a thing that they do. Because I have never really followed D23 other than just like live tweets. So I'll see what happens with that, or if even that, I could just do a live stream as live tweets are coming out. That could work too. But I'm definitely going to do a follow-up video about the MCU announcements at D23. But like I said, just wanted to share my thoughts on the stuff from Comic-Con. It's kind of the first Too Many Topics video here. Just kind of, you know, get something out on the channel. And you can expect another video out on the channel here in the next couple of days. It's actually already scheduled to go up and everything. And like I said back in the channel trailer video and also in the announcement over at Toku Topics, this channel is basically going to kind of be weekly. It's going to kind of just be random content of whatever I want to talk about, and this is kind of your first exposure to kind of what you sort of can expect. There's going to be other things and stuff like that, but if you are finding this channel for the first time, any of my internet content, hello, welcome, thank you for finding it and subscribing or whatever. And if you're coming over from Toku Topics, also, hello, and thank you for coming over from Toku Topics to give this second channel a chance. I'm very excited to see where it's going to be able to go from here. And of course, that's all I got. So until next time, you guys can follow me on Twitter at LivingRangerKey or at LightningFigPR. Be sure to like and subscribe, and definitely share this video around, because I just definitely want to see this channel grow and get those numbers up there and everything, so we can have both channels running, you know, full steam ahead and see where it goes with it. So I will see you all next time.